In today's news journal, you were quoted as saying that you agree with a lot of the Vision 2015 plan, except for teacher compensation aspects of it. What are your problems with those aspects of the teacher compensation
Well,
plan?
here's exactly what I said.
Okay.
In fact, in my prepared remarks, I said that and these were only 15 minutes, there was quite a lot in my prepared remarks.
Right.
But I said, I believe the state does need to think differently on teacher compensation, including the idea of basing teacher compensation in part on student performance and a number of other measurements, which I laid out in my remarks. Now, what I said was, if we're going to base teacher compensation in part on student performance, then we've got to have a better test than we currently have. So that was really that was the primary focus. Now, when I said I have some issues, here's what I was referring to, and it was less about Vision 2015 broadly and more specifically about the lead committee's report.
Okay.
The lead committee, I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, the lead committee is a committee that came up with recommendations between $86 and $156 million of savings in the education budget. Specific, and what I said is that I believe that within that up to $156 million, there's some relatively low-hanging fruit. That includes, for example, the fact that we've got 19 school districts, and they are all buying textbooks from the same publishers, but they're not consolidating those purchases across districts.
Right.
If they did consolidate purchases and the like, they'd save between $15 and $25 million a year. To me, that's low-hanging fruit.
Right.
There are some other similar pieces related to transportation and energy, relatively low-hanging fruit. Leveraging architecture and design costs of new school buildings. The issue, but what I was specifically saying, and what that quote was referring to, is part of it is basically saying that we would expect teachers to choose between a different benefits package and a different compensation package. And what I said was that it's not clear to me at all that the way for us to improve education is for us to be asking our teachers to take a hit on those kinds of issues. So that's specifically what I said. It didn't really come through that way.
Yeah, I was making sure the context was clear. Good.
While we're talking about education, how about conduit funding for charter schools? I know that's been an issue.
Yeah, what I've said there, and both of these issues, I don't know if you guys have probably seen my book. I don't know if you've seen the book or not. So both the issue, the teacher compensation issue, as well as the conduit bond financing issues in there. So basically, I think we've now had charter schools for 13 years.
Right.
We have 3 years of research that's been done by researchers from I think Western Michigan University. I think this is an appropriate time for us to take a step back and say, what have we learned, and what should we be doing differently? Now, that means, for example, when it comes to conduit bond financing, I think in the end, it would be appropriate for schools to be able to seek that conduit bond financing so long as it's part of a broader understanding that says this. My daughter, as a spirit of full disclosure, attends the charter school of women. I recognize that charter schools bring a lot to the table. Delaware Military Academy being another one. Plenty that do a lot of good things. However, because the way it works in Delaware is the money follows the kid. So if a child leaves Ayatapon High School and goes to the charter school of Wilmington, X thousands of dollars goes with that student. The point is, we don't want our funds to be so diluted. We don't want the funding to be so diluted that we have lots and lots of schools without the necessary adequate resources to fund the school. We want every school to be sufficiently capitalized.
Right.
So I think we've got to come up with some kind of understanding so that we have some kind of predictability that there's not going to be 100 new charter schools popping up. And so I think so long as we can get our arms around all of those issues, understand the good things that charters bring, but also the fact, for example, that charters are bringing some level of resegregation. There's been some skimming of students. And for example, I grew up in Newark, went to the public schools in Newark. There are two elementary schools in Newark specifically that I'm thinking of, one being John R. Downs and the other one being West Park. Both of them excellent schools. Both of them bleeding kids, losing kids to Newark Charter School, which is an excellent school, certainly. But the point is, we want all of our schools to be sufficiently capitalized and to be doing a great job, and we don't want that to only be the charter schools.